Welcome to the KBB Review podcast. I'm Andy Davies, as always. That hasn't changed. And I'm very pleased to say that this is episode 1 of a brand new season. Season 16 to be precise. As you can probably tell, I am out and about again, and as seems to so often be the case when I'm recording intros this way, I'm wandering along the legendary Wigmore Street in London. I'm on my way to the opening of the brand new Miele Experience Centre, and I had to remember to actually turn left rather than right as I came off Oxford Street, as the previous iteration of the showroom was only just on the other side of Cavendish Square. But this new, bigger showroom is right in the middle of Wigmore Street itself in the former Boffey showroom. Some of you may know that one, of course. It's the one that used to be a bank. Now, I'm not just heading there to see the new place. I've actually managed to get some time with the guest of honour at the opening, Dr Reinhard Zinkann, one of the two co-owners of Miele. The other co-owner is Marcus Miele, and their great-grandfathers founded the company back in 1899, and it's now worth about 5 billion euros a year. Now, this new Wigmore Street showroom is another expansion of its Experience Centre strategy. Pre-COVID, there were 2 in the UK, and now there are 9, including the Bluewater and Brent Cross shopping malls. The Edinburgh showroom, which opened in 2021, was the company's 100th Experience Centre worldwide. So I reckon Dr Zinkann's view of the market is about as top level as it gets. And let's be honest, there's been some grumbles from independent retailers lately about margin and supply in the overall appliance sector. So I think it's going to be really interesting to find out exactly what he thinks is going on across the sector. But first, the Installer Show 2025 is coming up at the end of June, and I'll be there every day doing a live episode recording of this very podcast. The show runs on the 24th, 25th and 26th of June at the NEC, and every day at 1:30 you can come and see us at the Kitchen of the Future stand. For more info and see what we're talking about, and to get your free ticket to the show, go to installershow.com. Installershow.com. And I'll put that link in the episode description. Now, let's go and meet Dr. Reinhard Zinkann from Miele. Well, thank you so much for sparing us a little bit of time. Before I launch into the business questions here, I'm fascinated by the fact that your dad called you upstairs, literally 20 minutes after you arrived, just to check it had all gone well. And how old is he now?
96.
And he's still as interested in...
He's very interested and very keen to know what's going on. And I saw him yesterday evening and told him I'd go to London to open a new showroom. And he said, have we given up the old one? I said, yes, we have given it up. Even if we remodeled it. He asked, how is it? Do you like it? Is it state of the art? Yeah. And show me a few pictures when you come back. Oh, he's very interested. That's what keeps him young. And I'm so proud to have a father who is by his brain still extremely young. He is never thinking back and said, 30, 40, 20, 50, whatever years ago we did, and you should think of this. What he does is he says, well, this and this seems to be coming up, or did you think of the opportunities, or did you think of this from the competitor A or B, or the market A or B, and has an enormous wisdom, an enormous knowledge, and we're very fortunate to have him.
You and Dr. Miele seem to spend more time in the air than you do on the ground. You are constantly travelling.
Me? Or
yes, both of you. You seem to be travelling all the time, coming to places like this.
Well, yes.
What's your mileage every year?
Oh, I can't tell you. I think pre-COVID, I had 350,000 a year.
Are you the kind of person who advises others on how to pack a suitcase really well?
No. No.
You have to roll, not fold. That's what I've been told.
Yeah. But you can't roll suits. But anyway, the point is, Marcus Miele is more on the factory side, and I'm more on the sales side. So he always says, you're the ambassador, out with you. And don't return without something on the paper. No, I'm joking. Of course, he's also traveling a lot. But I used to travel much, much, much more.
Well, look, can we start with a question you could probably talk about for hours and hours and hours? What is your overall view of the market at the moment? That's particularly in the Kitchen Specialist channel, but what is your overall view? Because there is an awful lot of economic things happening in the world.
The world market is, I would say, completely different from region to region, from country to country. We have countries where you do not feel any kind of recession or anything that is even close to consequences of a war. We have other regions where that is not the case. So if we divide the world, we have countries like Australia, or we have Hong Kong, or we have Switzerland. We have countries that are going very well. We have others that are stable and others that are struggling. Struggling due to recession, due to inflation, due to consequences of war, due to uncertainty of customers. But to my mind, that is actually normal because we had something like that throughout the history. You always have, if you look at the world, countries that are safe and sound and going well and others that are struggling. And the UK is a very good example. You've seen ups and downs here a lot in the UK. Depending on policy, depending on estimations of customers, and I could give you many reasons for that. So if I see the overall business, I have the feeling that it is difficult at the moment, but it is not hopeless. The whole industry is struggling, but I also see a lot of light in the tunnel. Now, if I come to the relations between US, Russia, China, Europe, there, of course, we have a couple of dark clouds where we don't, or where we can't predict what's going to happen. Nobody knows what Mr. Trump is thinking overnight and what he is twittering on the next morning. As such, nobody can predict the consequences, but there are consequences for the US business as well as for the European business. He said recession is not of interest to him, but I believe, because he's promised to do a lot for the economy and make America great again, if the US economy is starting to struggle, if the inflation is coming to the US, if recession is coming to the US, he will have to change his mind, number one. And for sure, what he does has consequences for the US internal market. Second, talking about tariffs, about import duties or export duties, also up to now, it is not clear what duties he puts on what products or on what materials. So as we can't predict, we can only do business as usual. It would not make sense now to think, oh God, the world is going down. And what do? As well as it would not make sense to say, yippee, we are riding at a fast pace towards a super bright future. So rather keep track and stay normal, stay in the middle. That's at least what I would feel we should do. China also has a lot of internal issues, and nobody can foresee what's happening there, as nobody can foresee what's happening to the building business, construction business. And we are, in the end, dependent on the construction business, on the high-end apartments and housing. At this point of time, it's very hard to predict how is the business going in the next half year, whatever. But what we see is that there is, in the US, as well as in China, as well as all over the world, a demand for the difference. There is a demand for the better. There's demand for quality. There's a demand for everything that is ecologic, especially the young generation. Let's put it, the green aspect of life in general. There is a demand for that. As long as you can fulfill that, as long as you deliver value, people are willing to pay for that. Now, coming back to Europe, because that's the third region, Europe is in a difficult situation because Europe is not Europe. We have the East, the Baltics, we have Middle Europe, we have the Med, we have the UK. And each market has different situations. The problem in Central Europe, especially in Germany, is that Germany is in a recession, that Germany has the problem that the building construction industry is down, and that due to all of these reasons, the last government failed and we had new general elections, and hopefully a new government which will be then stable. But until things will change in the construction side, until this new government will have put in new regulations or taken out or back other regulations that are stupid, to my mind, it will take time. We will see that earliest in 2026, maybe. So the situation is as difficult to foresee as you might think of it. Usually, we in the business are used to make plans, A, B, C, to try to predict things, and by predicting them, try to make up mitigation plans. What do we if? But this is so difficult as never before because the world is so different, because countries in their own economy are so different. And as such, I hardly can tell you what, when, if. I can only say we will continue to do what we believe. And that is deliver the best possible, the best available product in the market to our customers. Now, the point is, there will always, as long, and I'm now more than 30 years in the business, as long as I'm in the business, as long as my father was in the business, or my grandfather and great-grandfather as well, there was always a difference between those who thought, I can't afford, I have to buy cheap, and those who think, I'm too poor to afford bad quality. Rather pay more and have something for 20 years than purchase something cheap and have in 5 years a service call or whatsoever. That was always the case. And we, as Miele, have seen many crises in the world. Not to speak about the two world wars, but also to speak about inflation, hyperinflation, super unemployment, about oil crisis, about we've seen every sort of difficulty in our markets that you may imagine. And why did we survive? Because we stick to the two words in the genetic code, immer besser. We can do lots of things, but one thing we may never do, change this approach, be different, be better. So that is our message, and that's why we believe that there will be always a future for us, because there will be always people who want to pay the difference, who want to purchase the difference, as well as there are people who want to show off, yes, we made it, we can afford whatever, a Jag, a Mercedes, a Lotus, a BMW, a Porsche, a Ferrari, instead of a Ford. And yes, we can afford the most expensive, but most valuable, most chic, most whatever, up to the latest standard appliances and furniture.
What I find fascinating about Miele as a company is that a lot of your customers, the kitchen studio channels, are family-run businesses. And all the things that you're describing actually apply to them as well, with the longevity of it, the idea that you're looking past next year, past the 5-year mark, you're always looking at what might come in the next generation of things. As I suppose those messages apply as equally to them as it does to you. You have to stick to what you know best, control the controllables and accept the fact that you can't control the uncontrollables, and just keep focusing on your key message rather than trying desperately to diversify and look around.
For the kitchen dealers and us, that's why we are born partners. If you want to be successful, you have only two ways to be successful. You can either try to compete by being among the cheapest, mass market, and there is always a mass market, or you could try to compete by being different, by giving add-on value. And this add-on value starts not only in having a showroom, but starts in the way how you approach the customer, how you understand his needs, how you go for his or help him in his design understanding, and then helping him to understand the difference of products. We know that we would never be able to compete via the price. But if we name now kitchen manufacturers, a Bultaup or a Pompool, they also know they can never, or Boffy, they know they can never compete via the price. They compete by delivering a better service, a better understanding to the consumer, and by delivering something that overachieves what he expected. And that's where we are born partners. And that's where we can help him, because that is also our approach.
But you know what I always find fascinating about companies like this is what you don't do, because you've got an incredibly strong brand with huge heritage to it, and it would be very easy to go, well, do a Miele Light, a sort of mid-market version of it to cash in on the brand. And I think it takes quite a lot of long-term bravery to not do the obvious thing with a brand of that strength.
There is one thing that we have also in common with the classic kitchen retail. We do not sell things that sell fast. We do not sell something that is forgotten fast. We do not sell something that you enjoy for a while and then put it away. Even, I'm sorry to say, a mess scarf or whatever, you may find nice this year, next year, think, oh, why did I purchase this? Or a tie or whatever accessory. A bottle of champagne you enjoy now, but then it's forgotten. What we sell is something that lasts, that you look at every day and that you should have pleasure with every day. And that is where we come together with the kitchen trade, because the kitchen trade designs everything around the furniture, the look around of the kitchen, which is nowadays grand room, open, and. But in order to make a grand room concept really be perfect, they need appliances that fit in 100% perfect. Plus, deliver something that overachieves what the consumer expects. Make it short and simple for the consumer. Not everybody is a born chef, but everybody wants to enjoy good food. So all these automatic programs are important, and it's important that they can be used as easy as possible. That's why we think of apps and many, many more things to come. That is our job. But the two go together. Now, on top of that, yes, for example, we could think of very modern, stylish design. Have different handles, different colors, different knobs. But the question is, if you have a grand room set and a kitchen from Bulltop, by the way, they would never put in something too stylish, but if you have something like that, you put it in an expensive kitchen and you look at it every day, and after 4 years, you start thinking, why the heck did I purchase this purple fridge? Why the heck did I want golden handles? What you want is something that is completely pulling back, that you hardly realize to be appliance in the kitchen. It has to be an all-in-one super fit. And that's where the kitchen retail and we come together. We deliver the functionality, the understanding of the functionality. He delivers the understanding of the design. And both of us give something to the consumer that he has for a very long time. So he pays a high price, yes, but he pays it because he's not forgetting it, but because he wants either to show, well, I am well off, I can afford, I know the difference, I had the best designer, or because he says, wow, that's what I like and I simply enjoy it. But for that, we need the understanding of both. And the kitchen retail is a born partner for us. And we try to help them to make good business. And we try to make everybody understand in retail, we do not want to take business away from them. No, we want to make jointly more business. And we have a deep understanding of what the product gives in detail, so we can help the kitchen retail make his consumer or customer client happy. He goes back and purchases the whole package. Because what the kitchen retail has to deliver is not only the sale, but also the installation and then the service in case anything goes wrong. But we help them there again. We help them with our customer service. And as such, we come together and jointly give to the consumer the best solution.
So can I ask a little bit about the Experience Centre business strategy of it? There's been a clear rollout of the concept. When you first started it, you were really the only one doing it. I think having this idea of your own showrooms, and it caused a lot of controversy when it first came out because you can sell direct to the consumer from here. But that's become much more of a standard model now. Other brands are doing it too. But equally, there's places like here, which great, the retailers can send their customers here. But then you've got places like Blue Water, much more kind of retail shopping mall type places where that's not about retailers sending their customers, that's customers going in there. So what is the overall strategy of them? Because it's clearly changed.
Well, it's a clear omni-channel strategy. The world has changed. We've spoken about the politics in the world that has changed, but also retail and competition all over the world has changed. And as such, we have to follow an omni-channel policy. The same comes true for everything that happens online. If you would have said 10 years or 15 years ago, we sell online, the answer would have been, are you crazy? That will turn the world down. It's no way. Now, if a customer on the weekend sits down, Googles, goes to the homepage, whatsoever, he's not just looking and then bye-bye. He wants to purchase 24/7. He wants to purchase. So we do have to give him an option to click the button and purchase. If we would not do so, we would exclude ourselves from that part of the business. And by the way, as you do know, appliance.com and things like that, we have very successful only online retailers. So that's in the meantime, no. And omni-channel also means not only the online sales, but also sales from the showrooms. If you call them showrooms, we call them experience center points or whatever, depending on the site. Why is that necessary? Well, a brand like Miele needs to be understood. I spoke about the kitchen retail and what they give to the consumer and where we can add value to the sale of the kitchen retail. But also, we need for the consumer to understand the value. If the consumer just thinks an oven is an oven, it heats up, I don't need 12 programs or 10 programs, I don't need all this automatic shit, then we start talking a different story. If the consumer thinks all these white boxes, well, they're all the same, they have a hole, they promise what you put in comes out in a different way, and one costs, let's say, £299 and the other costs £1,400 or whatever, the consumer says, why should I pay that? it comes out of this machine also in a different way. That it does not come out the same quality, that it does not last that long, that it does not have a lot of features is a different story. So people need to have feel, smell, touch. Well, we cannot give them that experience at their home, but we can invite them to have the experience of feel, smell, touch in our showrooms. If a brand like ours is not visible or just visible only in the trade, if at the trade partners the brand is not the preferred brand and is, let's say, talked down, possible, just talking about reality in sales, then it is necessary that he can find the product directly, see it, and then make up his opinion what he wants. It's not that we are forcing him into Miele, but omnichannel for us is an option to come in contact with the consumer, and it is an option, on the other hand, beside the contact, an option, of course, to sell. Now you may question, yeah, but you could have the showroom without selling. Well, you should, and I'm pretty positive you do, know about the rental prices in London. If we do think the rental prices in London plus staff, it is nearly unaffordable if there wouldn't be a figure that goes against it, and that is sales. So we need the sale to finance our showrooms, and we need the showrooms to be in contact with consumers. And there are consumers who just walk by the street and see, what's that? Oh, that's a nice whatever window. That product is nice. Let me just go in. There are even consumers who are just going in to purchase, let's say, backpacks. So they're not coming for a dishwasher or a steam cooker. But then they come, what's that? And then we come into another discussion with them. And by the way, you can try it. If you just go online, you look at a picture, you can try. Not every trade partner has an active kitchen. Not in every trade partner you can directly taste the difference.
I think one of the things with Miele is the Venn diagram of Miele is slightly different to, for example, Fisher and Paykel down the road, is that you have the laundry, you have the floor care, you have the distressed purchase element of it as well that kind of goes with it. So there is a clear overlap with the direct sales point as well. But I just find it interesting because it was very controversial at the time, but it's become sort of the norm. And this is what happens when people kind of forge ahead. Bluewater, which I know very well because I live near there, you're very close to the Lego store, for instance. And, the fact that Lego is for sale in lots of different retailers, but Lego have these flagship stores as one.
Yeah, they have changed the policy as well.
Yeah.
But they were nearly bust.
Yeah. That's how you create brand. That's how you create experience.
The problem is the more difficult retail gets, the more difficult the business environment is, the more important it is to make the consumer understand the difference. So he spends his well-earned money on the better product. That's why this omni-channel strategy is so important for us.
But it is still, and this is what I think you've done very well, but I think it is still a balancing act of keeping your retail partners happy and making sure that they understand what all the policy and how it all works, appealing to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the consumer as well. It is a skillful balancing act.
My standard wording is, if the trade is successful, we are successful. We can, even with an omni-channel strategy, never, ever do the business all alone. We need the trade partners, and we need healthy trade partners. So we need trade partners that also know how to earn a margin. That's very important. And we need them to understand that we are there to serve them, not only to sell to them, but also to serve them, to help them, to train them, to assist them, to make them a better retailer in our field, of course, not in the cabinet field, but in our field, to help them win the customer, to help them close the deal, and make them understand that we're never working against them because we need their success.
You mentioned margin there. I just wanted to touch on that a little bit if we can, because one of the things I talk to retailers about appliances, and if they have a complaint or a comment about appliances, this is across the board, this is not Miele, is that the amount of money they make from them, their own margin is sort of shrinking all the time to the point where I've had retailers say that selling appliances is a necessary evil.
I know that you're for the kitchen retail, but I give you the example from the electric retail. If you look into the department stores like Media Market or whomsoever, they have huge screens, walls, screens with TV. Do they earn money on TV? No, nil. They earn money on appliances. Yes, the margin is always under pressure because the price is under pressure And of course, you cannot, if the price goes down, still have a top margin. Or let's say raise margin and take down prices. That would be the ideal point for any retailer. You would sell more, have a higher margin, and the producer in the end has less. That can't work out. So the problem is, in the end, margin is a topic, yes, but we also cannot change that the perspectives in the markets are changing. The values or the understanding of values and price points is changing in the markets. And as such, the margin needs are changing as well. And it always have to be, let's say, somehow like this, in a balanced margin and price. But one thing is for sure, we want the dealers to earn a margin, and a good margin. And if you look at percent-wise, or if you look at in pound-wise, probably he earns a better margin on a Miele product than on a cheap product, definitely. And the choice he can make is, well, I spent or asked the client, customer, whatever, to spend, let's say, 10,000, 20,000 pounds on the kitchen cabinetry, and he has only 5,000 euros left for appliances. Now the point starts, does he argue for the better solution where he has a higher margin? Or does he argue for the cheap solution, which means in 5 years' time or whatever, the products will start to get exchanged? And to my mind, it's better for him if you start arguing for the better solution. For the more expensive one, yes, but for the more reliable one and the better one. The main point is we can only be successful, we can only survive with a safe and sound and healthy and margin earning strong retail partner.
So this brings on to my next question, really, which is about service to the retailer, I suppose. The last time we interviewed Miele, it was around the lockdown. Everyone was stuck at home, and there was an enormous boom. No one could get hold of chicks. It all got a bit strange. I'm wondering what you learned from that period about supply chains and about robustness of delivery to your partners. You mentioned upstairs how the business has changed a lot. And I'm wondering what you took away from that really odd, strange experience.
Well, the first lesson learned is you can never predict. Because all mitigation plans, all we had made, set up in Corona shutdown, did not come true. We had thought things to become much worse. And instead, the opposite came true. So we predicted it wrong, number one. Number two, nobody could foresee that everything was shut down. So people spent time at home. And if they wanted to spend money, where to spend it? Since 10 years, we talk about the kitchen or the bedroom or whatever. So let's spend money on that. We can order it and it's being installed without us having to go around all over places. That helped us, of course. But on the other hand, when Corona was finished, things went down again. That hit us because we had set everything up for growth. As such, we had to undergo, and we are still undergoing, quite difficult, I would say, process of restructuring. That is a learning that you may never set all sales just for fast growth and speed. Always you have to bear in mind things can change. Third point, it also showed, and that is probably the most important lesson, even if we do produce probably more things in-house than anybody else, like our own pumps in Euskirchen or our own plastics. And we do a lot of things ourselves to guarantee the quality, durability, 20 years and an end. But we are in a supply chain and we are dependent, for example, on electronics. And when something happens there, as it happened at the same time in Texas, Korea, and Japan, and then the whole industry broke down and nobody had any more electronics. You could purchase a Mercedes, I remember that very well, as long as it's black, has no air condition and no radio. Because the little electronic parts that are controlling that were not available in the market. So supply chain became a very important issue in that time. That's a takeaway that we have to think very much, how can we secure supply chain to stay independent? Because the result was, even if we were not doing too bad, because we got a lot of help, still in some markets, you had to wait for a washing machine 16 weeks. Nobody wants to wait for a washing machine 16 weeks. That's a very bad customer experience. Yes, you can explain to the customer, we have supply chain, you have read about the semiconductor crisis, it's in all over the news, but still he says, sorry, I need my washing machine now. So supply chain is very important. We have to ensure, and that's crucial, our key suppliers. That's what we are taking a lot of care of. And that's probably the major learning, the vulnerability of the world in terms of certain parts that everybody needs. Because semiconductors, everybody needs. There's nearly no durable industry that doesn't need semiconductors. But that's just one example. There are other examples as well. So that is something important, and we have learned a lot, and we are very much taking care to ensure our continuous supply and to stay stable and independent. And especially when the world is in disruption like now, that gets more and more important. Core of Miele will always stay what it is. The core is the quality durability, is the 20 years claim, is the peace of mind, is the best service, pre-sales and after sales. And I have to admit, we did have issues with our after sales service. Also, there we had to change a lot, but that had to do with the new software that we installed that did not work the way in the beginning that we wanted it. Now it's done. And it was a huge workload for our service team in Abingdon. So pre-sales and after sales give the best experience, overachieve what the consumer expects. That's what will always stay the same. Goal is to be among the technology leaders. Give the best possible technology, but a technology that the consumer can use, understand. So not give a technology with 1,500 apps and gimmicks that the consumer doesn't either want nor understand. But you could say, we've got 1,500 apps. No, give to the consumer something that adds to his value, makes his life easy.